Welcome back to Movies TV Mad. You can follow me on Twitter at Movies TV Mad, on Instagram and TikTok at Movies TV Mad 555, or also on TikTok at Movies TV Mad XXX. Welcome to Tuesday's edition of the DCEU Daily, and shiver me timbers, we've actually got some DC news, live action news. And you know it's been pretty dead for weeks and weeks because they're saving most of this exciting stuff for DC fandom. So yesterday it was confirmed by Warner Brothers that Matt Reeves is developing his third live-action DC project. This time another spin-off on HBO Max. This is a Colin Farrell-starred Penguin television show over on HBO Max. And here are the deets. The Batman Penguin spin-off series in the works at HBO Max. Colin Farrell, who plays the DC villain in the 2022 feature film, has been approached to reprise his role in a potential show on the streamer by Rick Porter of The Hollywood Reporter. HBO Max is continuing to build out its own DC universe. The streamer is in early development on a series centered on Batman villain the Penguin. The potential show would be a spin-off of Warner Brothers' feature film The Batman, which is due for a March 2022 release. Matt Reeves and Dylan Clark, who are directing and producing the film, will be executive producers on the project. Colin Farrell plays the Penguin, a crime lord whose given name is Oswald Cobblepot in The Batman, and has been approached about continuing the role in the series. No deal is in place yet. What normally happens is when actors sign on for these big franchises, there's obviously a certain kind of extension to that contract, so he's probably all in already. HBO Max declined to comment. Lauren LaFranc, YouTube's Impulse Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., is attached to write a script for the TV project, which would focus on Cobblepot's rise through the Gotham City underworld. Should the project make it to series, it would be the second direct spin-off of The Batman for HBO Max. A show centered on the Gotham City Police scored a straight-to-series order in July 2020. HBO Max also has several other DC shows in development, including a Green Lantern series from Greg Berlanti, a J.J. Abrams-produced Justice League Dark project, and a Peacemaker spin-off of the Suicide Squad centered on John Cena's character, the Peacemaker. The streamer is also making DMZ, a limited series based on DC Vertical comic by Brian Wood and Richard Buccelli, and executive produced by Ava DuVernay. Oh God. HBO Max also airs Titans and Doom Patrol, which organised on Warner Media's DC's Universe, originated on Warner Media's DC Universe platform. Warner Brothers TV and DC Entertainment are producing the Penguin project. Reeves via his Sixth and Idaho banner, and Clark via his eponymous production company will executive produce. So, big news everyone. The third live action project that Matt Reeves will be involved in. Now, if you're not seeing what's going on here, I will tell you. Now, I've predicted for weeks now that after Flashpoint, the main Earth that will be featured, their main Earth, their Earth 1, even though they're calling Matt Reeves' universe right now, Earth 2 would be Matt Reeves from The Batman and these other two spin-offs. That's been my prediction after Flashpoint. That's the Earth will be centered and focused on. So, I think the more I think about it, the more my prediction and my theory is coming true. But what's ironic here is it looks like they've replaced Zack Snyder with Matt Reeves as the central director. This is a director that makes darker movies than Zack Snyder. Imagine it. But you see, Matt Reeves comes from the Christopher Nolan school of auteurs and not the Zack Snyder. Zack Snyder is an unrelenting creative on his own vision, and he doesn't back down for any studio. That's why I've always said he is better off with Netflix, because creatively they couldn't give a shit and they'll let you do anything. They're bringing in big names. Zack Snyder's a big name. He has big pull. He has a group of fans. So, and they're future subscribers and viewers, and that's all they care about at the end of the day. So, is he running the DC live action universe? I wouldn't say he's running the DC live action universe, Matt Reeves. What I would say is that the Earth that will be featured first with the Batman is the Central Earth, and when you're giving someone 3 fucking live action projects, that says everything. That this will be the Central Earth, and that Matt Reeves is probably the most important director in this new live action universe, because nobody else has been given so many spin-offs. Now James Gunn, because he's James Gunn, was given his Peacemaker spin-off just like that. He was bored, so he wrote Peacemaker, but they wanted to do a spin-off of the Suicide Squad. They want a spin-off of every single movie that's going to be released through the theatrical system on HBO Max. They've already admitted that. So we know what their plan is. So, yes, I think Matt Reeves is the head figure of DC live action. 2, I think his Earth, which they're calling Earth 2, will be the Central Earth after Flashpoint. So this is very, very exciting for me. I think this is great. I think that Matt Reeves is great as well, and I think he's the perfect guy. And I think he's not a controversial figure. I don't think his Batman movie is controversial. I think a lot of people are seeing what he's saying and what he's coming out with, saying that, you know, he's bringing certain things from Batman Ego, that graphic novel series as well. And people like the things that he's doing. And obviously, you know, the test screening has been unanimously loved by people who have gone to see the test screening. And we got the reports from Blu-ray Angel's friend as well. If you remember rightly, we did a video on that as well. And everyone did a video on that, because I think that, you know, the mic drop moment. And that's the thing, right? I mean, one of these viewers, you know, Blu-ray Angel's friend, was talking about this mic drop moment. I believe it's the reveal of Joaquin Phoenix's Joker. I absolutely believe that Joaquin Phoenix's Joker in the ending of the Batman will be revealed. I think that's the mic drop moment. I can't think of anything else it can be. And I think if you don't believe that Joaquin Phoenix's Joker is involved in this Batman Earth 2 universe, you haven't been paying attention. I think this is what they were setting up from the very beginning. In fact, I think that Todd Phillips' Joker movie was pretty much greenlit around the same time as the Batman was greenlit as well. So very, very interesting stuff. And things are now becoming a lot clearer what's going on here. And to have Matt Reeves helming the Central Earth of the DC live action universe is very important, because, look, they trust him. He works well with Warner Brothers. He's always said, listen, if we're going to do it my way, let's do it my way. But I do respect that if Warner Brothers want to do it their way, that's fine. But it's got to be one thing or the other. It can't be a mismatch. And I think that's important. And I think that's what went wrong in the Snyderverse. Snyder had his ideas. They let him go with it. And when it became a bit of a controversy and some people didn't like it and it became divisive, Warner Brothers got scared. This guy, Matt Reeves, is a very different type of auteur, and I think that's very important to understand. So it does look like he is the lead auteur. Listen, I think this is an admittance from Warner Brothers that they were wrong to try and copy the Marvel formula after BVS. I think that's what they attempted to do. They got scared. Let's just do it the Marvel way. The bucks will come in. But it's not as simple as that. We had that discussion yesterday. We spoke about the ingredients to Coca-Cola. Nobody knows them. That's why everybody else's cola tastes a little bit off. And that's true, right? We all prefer. Anyone who likes the regular, sweet, sugary Coca-Cola doesn't like the own brands that much. And so I think that's important. You can't copy and paste other people's work. You know, it's not going to work. This is a company, Warner Brothers, that have always trusted and used auteur directors, you know, visionaries. You know, we're seeing it with June now, and you know, that is what they do. That's what they're famous for. And so I think this is an admittance that we were wrong. What we did, going away from what Snyder was doing, was a mistake. I think secretly, when they saw the success of the Snyder Cut, they realised, fuck me, you know what? I don't think this is necessarily fully the direction they're going in. I think they'll use auteur directors like Matt Reeves and Todd Phillips, but they'll also do kind of studio movies as well. I think the more studio stuff is going to be the stuff on HBO Max, not including the Matt Reeves produced stuff, by the way, or the James Gunn stuff, but I think certain things like Green Lantern will be more of a studio kind of HBO Max run thing to bring more mainstream audiences over to HBO Max so they can subscribe and view the platform. It's very important for them. But also what's important is the theatrical system, because I'm sure they believe, as we all believe, once COVID is dead and gone, and it's not going to last forever, we may have to put up with it for another 6 months. So blockbuster movies, the main movies, will make money again, the real money they used to make. I believe that comic book movies are still the thing, and I think the MCU have proved that with Shang-Chi and Black Widow, both making really, really good money. So the incentive from the audience is there. The audience are telling the studios, we still want to see these movies. We're not bored of comic book movies. And I think what Warner Brothers have said in terms of Matt Reeves, it's, you know what, Matt, you're the kind of director we're famous for giving, full control over. Do your thing. And if they weren't happy with the direction, he wouldn't be given his third project now to produce. That's huge. And that's not including the animated Batman series he's doing with J.J. Abrams as well, which is also very, very huge. So I believe DC live action is in good hands. Now, what's interesting, is it just the Batman universe he's moulding, or could his Earth, or if it's going to be the central Earth, maybe it's got its own Superman. And we don't know what Earths, Val Zod's a part of, or the Superman that Ta-Nehisi Coates and J.J. Abrams are developing either. We don't know that. It's not like they're talking about creating a multitude of Earths, but they're going to say they're a reality out there. So other people could kind of, seep in through other Earths, and I think that's the way they're going to do it. But this is a fully fledged multiverse strategy, and I just don't see it happening any other way but Matt Reeves' Earth being the main Earth for the future of DC live action. So, and it's really interesting when Matt Reeves, the Batman, was announced, is it going to be part of the DCEU? Well, no, it's not going to be part of the DCEU. And that's interesting. And Matt Reeves at first said, well, of course it's part of the DCEU. But now we know it's not on that Earth. But is it part of the future franchise? As part of that franchise, yes. And that's because this Matt Reeves Earth will be the main Earth. And this is why he's doing his third project. His third project has been greenlit. And as I say, I think it's epic. And I think he's the kind of auteur a studio can work with. Well, it's proof. It's proof because they keep on letting him do these things. And, we're not going to see much of Colin Farrell's Penguin in the Batman either. I mean, Colin's already told us that. And I always realise, well, maybe he's going to do his own thing with this character. And, this is brilliant. So, the Batman is the next DC live action movie. It's very exciting. The fans are excited. I think the broader audience are kind of intrigued for it. And I'm intrigued for it. So I hope people love it. I don't see any reason for people not to love it. I think it's going to go down extremely well, and the more popular this is, the more kind of projects they'll give him, the more freedom to mould his Earth too they'll give him. And I think this is ever so important. If we can say, well, Warner Brothers made a mistake with Snyder, and Snyder made a mistake with Warner Brothers. They both acted improperly towards each other, and now there's a strained relationship. But who knows what can happen in the future with Zaslav and Discovery. But by allowing Matt Reeves to have more and more control over his Earth on DC live action, and also it's important, let's just say for a minute that Reeves' Earth 2 is going to be the main Earth. What I think is very important, and it happens in the comics, just because Gotham is a dark, unrelenting place, it doesn't mean Metropolis or Central City has to. Do you understand? Because even though they're part of the same Earth, it doesn't mean it's all a dark place. Gotham has always been a dark, brutal place with a high crime wave, and that's fine. But Metropolis has got criminals there that Superman has to deal with, and Supergirl if she's there. But it's different. It's called a Metropolis. They called it Metropolis for a reason, because a metropolis is another word for a huge city. A metropolis. That's why they called it Metropolis, right? And Gotham is taken from Gothic. That's the whole point. It's a darker city. It makes sense. So Matt Reeves' Earth doesn't have to be all dark just because his Batman movies and HBO Max shows are going to be that way. That's fine. But I assume other people will be running other projects on Matt Reeves' Earth 2. I say Matt Reeves' Earth 2 because that's the way we can all understand what we're talking about. So I think it is going to be the Central Earth, and I think him being given a third project, well, if you include the animated Batman show, a fourth project, I think it's the right way to go. It's in good hands, and I just can't wait to see what the plan is, where we're going. And I think once we see the Batman, I think we're all going to be very, very excited. Of course, I could be absolutely wrong about Joaquin Phoenix's Joker being involved and being part of that Earth. I think part of the multiverse strategy and part of doing this is bringing everything together. So a lot of the stuff going forward, the Blue Beetle, you know, Green Lantern Corps, can be all part of the same Earth that we're going to see first in Matt Reeves' The Batman. And so you can have a franchise, but it doesn't mean there's not other Earths out there, but this Earth is the new focus. When Barry comes back after Flashpoint, he's on this Earth too. That Earth 1, the DCEU Earth, it won't exist, it will just be empty, gathering dust. No one's going to be there. One way or the other, I assume they're going to delete it. I think that's if you're rebooting the franchise, I think we'd all admit, whatever we want from all this, is that they're going to delete the DCEU Earth 1 and focus everything on Matt Reeves' Earth and say, right, we're starting again. So in a lot of ways, Matt Reeves' The Batman is the beginning of the brand new DCEU, the DC Extended Universe, DC Live Action, the worlds of DC, the multiverse strategy, whatever you want to call it. So before I was saying it's all about the Flash, but we could see some interesting things in this Batman movie. This Batman movie could set up other things happening in the other movies this year, like Black Adam, Flash, Aquaman, you know. So it's very interesting. It's very interesting if you look at it that way. But I was surprised. Listen, I'm as surprised as you are that they broke this news about the Penguin happening on HBO Max. I was hearing rumblings about this for several weeks now, for about a month, just over a month. But there was nothing solid, so there was no point me saying anything, because then I'd be just like the other YouTubers, just saying stuff for clicks and views. And there's no point, because I'm here because I love the DCEU. I love these DC characters and universes. I love entertainment and I love stories. I'm not here to make money from this. Of course I would love 1 million viewers and 1 million subscribers, wouldn't we all? But I'm not desperate. I'm not going to go hungry just because only 20 people view my videos. It's fine. I do this for the people who want to watch, and I do this for myself. Because if you see me on Twitter, you know how passionate I am about this stuff. I spend all day, retweeting news for you in the entertainment industry, giving you my opinions. That's what I am. So this is very exciting. Listen, the DCEU started in a way that didn't lift it to the level that the studio wanted. But it doesn't mean, as I said before, never misunderstand controversy or divisive reactions or low box office as a disaster or a failure or a sign of bad movies. Man of Steel didn't make the money the studio wanted, but it's a great movie. BVS made under $1 billion, broke records in the opening weekend. It didn't make the money they wanted, but it's a great movie. Zack Snyders' Justice League was a huge success, but we'll never know in dollar bills how much it made for them. But it's a great movie. The DCEU has got some great movies and some not so great movies. But the truth of the matter is, for me, the Snyder movies are the best that the DCEU have produced and given us thus far. None of those other movies are as good as Snyder's movies as far as I'm concerned. So I was all in what Snyder was doing. You know, we go from MOS to BVS, and I love the way he does his interconnected franchise. The way each film continues straight from where he left the other film. He does it in BVS, and he does it in Zack Snyder's Justice League Snyder Cut, with that opening sequence of Superman being killed by Doomsday. It's a proper continuing strand. It's a proper interconnected franchise. So, and it's more interconnected than the other films are since he left, which is the truth, because they started to think, oh, let's not do interconnected stuff. Now they realise the money is in an interconnected franchise, but what they've decided to do is give everyone what they want. If you like the darker stuff, watch Matt Reeves' The Batman. If you want lighter type of MCU stuff, there's other things out there. So everyone's going to get a piece of what they want. There will be some projects that are copied and pasted from graphic novels, some that won't be, and that will have original auteurs giving their spin on these DC characters and universes. That's what excites me. So I think everyone can get what they want. It's true, the Snyder fans are not getting what they want, but they got 3 movies, they're great, and who knows what the future holds. So I will say it here what my opinion is, that Snyder's 3 movies are leaps and bounds better than the other DCEU movies, but I don't hate the other DCEU movies. I still think Suicide Squad's a good movie. I think Wonder Woman's a sensational movie, and I put that on Snyder. Aquaman's a sensational movie. Snyder had some involvement there. You know, he cast Jason Momoa. It was his vision, right? I'm sure Wan used his pictures and his drawings and some of his concepts, right? Shazam is an okay movie for families. So there's some good films there. I don't think, apart from Wonder Woman 84, there's, and I'm not counting Justice League here, there are terrible movies, right, that are a total disaster that don't make sense. Most of them are great, or good at least, but I think for me, and this is not a universal thing, for me, Snyder's movies are the best of modern day comic book movies. That's just my opinion. I prefer Snyder's 3 movies to anything from the MCU, but I'm not an MCU stan. I don't get absolutely that excited about the MCU. I watch the movies, I collect the movies, I think they're okay. I think it's clever what he's done with the interconnected nature, Kevin Feige, of the MCU, and that's great, but they're not great movies. They're not classics. But what Snyder did, he had a unique take, and it works for me, and it works for a whole lot of people. Now, what happens going forward? Because there's a rumour, apparently, that Walter Hamada is one of the few people over at Warner Brothers who actually wants to do Justice League 2 with Zack Snyder. So that's interesting. We don't know what Walter came afterwards. Walter didn't mistreat. Let's be clear here. Walter Hamada didn't mistreat Zack Snyder because he wasn't working with him. What happened with Walter, he was caught in the crossfire of the Ray Fisher and Joss Whedon investigation. He was put in a terrible position, not only by the studio, but by Ray Fisher as well. So I don't think he's a bad guy, and I think he's a very smart, intelligent producer. And there's no evidence that he doesn't want to restore the Snyderverse. He may not have the power, even as DC Films president, because if Warner Brothers Pictures say no, the guy running one of the departments isn't going to have say over Ann Sarnoff, the CEO and chair of Warner Media, or Toby Emmerich. They're the big lieutenant and colonels. Walter Hamada just runs one department, a very important, vital department, but he doesn't have more say-so than them. So, if he wants to do Justice League 2, if he wants to restore the Snyderverse, he can't. But what's interesting is when Zaslav and Discovery come in, things can change and Walter can make that suggestion to them if he keeps his job. Now, this all depends on the success of the multiverse strategy. So, don't think because Hamada fails, Snyder wins. Because I don't think Hamada's necessarily against Snyder's vision. He came in and he was given a remit. They gave him the remit, he went to work. He came in a terrible situation after Justice League, just like James Wan did with Aquaman. So I think James Wan and Walter Hamada especially, Walter Hamada especially, has done okay considering the clusterfuck he took over from. Some films have been really, really good, like Joker or Aquaman, Shazam. But then he or the studio allowed Margot Robbie to make the decisions on Birds of Prey. That was a mistake. They gave Patty Jenkins free rein because they were being criticised for not giving directors the freedom. So they gave them the freedom. And it didn't work out very well. I mean, they gave Kathy Yang freedom on Birds of Prey, and when she delivered to them what she'd made, they were scared. So that's when they had to interfere, and they didn't bring her into the editorial process because they were scared of her. She'd made a mess of the movie. She couldn't direct action. It was very problematic. They were just as worried and outraged as we were that the Birds of Prey weren't wearing their iconic costumes and they were dressed down. You know, it's a feminist movie. There's no question about that. And that feminist movie didn't work. So the good things that Walter's done are really, really good. And it's obviously not been all a flying success. But as I say, most of the movies that have happened since Walter's come in, not all of them, but most of them, have been placeholders while he builds up and develops this multiverse strategy. So let's go back to Matt Reeves, a talented director, a talented storyteller, which I think most DC fans are excited that he's in this very important position. A third project has been commissioned. That means they trust him. He's working with them. He's a big part of this new Earth 2, which I predict will be the central universe. My throat's not working today. That's very frustrating, which means he's the lead. I think he's the lead director. That's how I feel. And so we've got Matt Reeves. We've got a third Matt Reeves project happening. And so, as I say, my theories seem to be coming true all the time. And this is why you should probably be subscribing to this channel, because a lot of what I say is shockingly true. A lot of it is guesses and theories, insider knowledge, things like that. But I do know what I'm talking about, and it's pretty obvious. I think if Joaquin Phoenix's Joker is part of Matt Reeves' The Batman universe, I mean, it's massive. It's massive. So that's interesting. So people always said there's no Joker in the Batman. I don't believe that. I don't believe it. I think he appears at the end. I think the mic drop moment is the reveal of Joaquin Phoenix's Joker. I think he's a big part of this universe. And I think that's going to be huge, because if that actually happens, everyone's going to be talking about this film even more, even though they're already going to be talking about this film. A film they're calling a kind of horror movie, a dark movie with, you know, hardcore violence. A movie, though, that Batman doesn't kill. Very important. There's big commentary in the film apparently as well. So I think we're all more than ready for the Batman, and I'm happy it's coming in March. We don't have long to wait, so it's very exciting. We've got no more DC projects this year, but we have got a huge DC event. It's DC Fandom. We will find out a lot more about DC live action going forward. So you don't want to miss DC Fandom. Watch it all, inject it in your veins. We're going to find out a lot of stuff. Sneak peek of The Flash, a huge movie for next year that changes the whole franchise. Black Adam, Aquaman and the Lost Kingdom, Shazam, Fury of the Gods. It's huge. And then obviously they're going to talk about Green Lantern, Peacemaker. And by the way, we have seen an image from Peacemaker. So here's the image. I think this is from EW.com. This is the new team in Peacemaker. Now I'm going to zoom in to a certain character because someone made me aware of this, so it's very interesting. So where are we? So there's someone sitting next to Cena's Peacemaker here. Now, if you remember rightly, in Arrow, one of the villains was Vigilante, or rumoured to be Vigilante. I think Vigilante was in season 7, right? So this apparently is supposed to be Vigilante. Now, I don't know who the actor is playing him, but that's very, very exciting. So this is James Gunn's Peacemaker, and that's the image. I'll try and zoom it a bit more so we can see a better look of it. So obviously I think one of the characters, obviously you've got two characters here from the first film. So let me zoom into them. So one, where are we? So these two, of course, one of them is James Gunn's wife, of course, the blonde lady, I forgot her name. She was in the first movie. And this guy, whose name escapes me right now, was part of Waller's team in the Suicide Squad. So they're part of this brand new team as well. So let's see who else we can find here. So we've got this lady here, I don't know who she is. I'm not sure if, I think they may have been part, these two, of the first film, but I'm not sure. Someone can let me know in the comments down below. So it's an odd little team, but it looks like we've definitely got Vigilante in this film. And the whole point, not film, sorry, limited series, Peacemaker on HBO Max. So apparently he's got to save the fucking world, as we were told in that post-credit scene of the Suicide Squad, but there's some kind of end of the world tragedy that Peacemaker is needed to stop. Now, is Peacemaker the right person to save the world, maybe from an alien invasion or whatever it is? I'm not too sure. We're going to have to wait and see, but I'm excited about Peacemaker as well. And it just shows you the confidence that they've got in people like James Gunn and Matt Reeves. And don't forget, James Gunn will also be at DC Fandom along with all these other creatives and actors from all the projects coming out next year. So James Gunn will stop working hard for just a little bit on Guardians 3 to be part of DC Fandom. And now I think he'll probably be on some kind of Zoom thing where they'll be talking to him, or maybe he's done a full kind of video thing. Maybe we'll see a trailer, because the film's ready to go anyway. He finished it a long time ago. So I don't know if he's still editing it, but I think there'll be a sneak peek, or even better, a trailer. So I'm very excited for Peacemaker. This has been the DCEU Daily. I'm Mick, your host with the most. Just ask your girlfriends and your wives. I will be back tomorrow with another edition of the DCEU Daily. Maybe back later today is something huge breaks within the DCEU. This is the place to be for all DCEU views, news and talking point. Until tomorrow, I will see you again soon. Until then, goodbye.